Welcome to the Heritage Hunters podcast with Dawn Piercy and the Heritage Huntress, where we are climbing trees and turning leaves. Grab your saucers. We've got tea and it's about to be spilled. Welcome back to the Heritage Hunters podcast. We're picking up where we left off. Don't lose your heads and grab a saucer. We've got tea. Was the father of Thomas Wyatt the Younger, of course. Now, Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder was born in 1503. He died in 1542. A famous poet and a diplomat credited with introducing the sonnet to English literature. He had an uneasy relationship with Henry VIII's court, but was close enough to witness Anne Boleyn's rise and fall. He was imprisoned, but he survived, and he died shortly after his release because he was weakened by illness and court stress. His mother was named Elizabeth Brooke, and the reason I'm saying these names is because nobody knows these names. Have you heard these names? No, but they're like key figures. So I think they should be spoken on and not forgotten, at least. She was from a noble family. She separated from Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder, but her marriage was tumultuous, largely due to Thomas Wyatt the Elder's infidelities. Okay, so we've got Thomas Wyatt the Younger's life. He was very educated and very ambitious in his early life. He inherited Allington Castle in Kent after his father's death, and he was raised with reformist Protestant leanings, which became very significant under Queen Mary's reign. So Wyatt's rebellion in 1554, the cause of that was Queen Mary announced her engagement to Philip II of Spain, sparking fears of foreign influence and Catholic dominance. It sounds a lot like what we go through in some ways today, to be honest. So many feared England would become a satellite of the Spanish Empire and revert to strict Catholicism, which how many were martyred under that? Let me tell you, you've got John Rogers, you've got many others, and I will make a list. I have a list of people that Mary I Tudor executed. I have a list of people that Elizabeth I executed, and I have a list of people that King Henry VIII executed as well. So I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice. So, okay. Enough on that. The plan was a coordinated uprising with Henry Grey, the Duke of Suffolk, and Sir Peter Carew. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Now, this was to prevent Mary's marriage and to replace her with Protestant half-sister Elizabeth, later Elizabeth I. Okay, now this got Elizabeth imprisoned. But Mary spared her. Okay, she spared her. So in the events, Wyatt raised a force of about 3,000 men in Kent and marched to London. Hothead, isn't he? Mary I, with the firm resolve and public support, rallied Londoners in a famous speech at Guildhall and completely refused to flee. She ain't going anywhere. Wyatt was stopped at Ludgate, outmaneuvered, and forced to surrender. He didn't think it through very well, did he? No, he didn't. Because here comes his trial and execution. Let's remember history so we're not to repeat it, okay? He was charged with high treason. Thomas Wyatt was tortured and interrogated. Medieval tortured, and interrogated. He refused to implicate Elizabeth, insisting she was not involved. And then he was executed on April 11th, 1554 by beheading. And then he was hung, drawed, and quartered, with his parts displayed across London as a warning. Well, I don't want to cuss, okay, on that. His children and family aftermath, he's got son George Wyatt, which was born in 1553 and died in 1624. He was born either shortly before or after the rebellion, but he did grow up under suspicion, but lived into the early Stuart period. And he became a writer and a biographer, defending Anne Boleyn's legacy and supporting Protestant views. Now, the family reaction and life after was the Wyatt family name was completely stained by the rebellion. Completely stained. Their lands were confiscated, though some were later restored. They maintained a quiet but loyal Protestant presence through the reigns of Elizabeth I and James I and VI. George Wyatt's writings helped rebuild the family's reputation, especially by defending the Tudor legacy and the whole Protestant thing. So you've got legacy that is good and bad. The good parts, it was viewed as a Protestant martyr, okay, by later generations, seen as a brave and loyal to England, resisting what he saw as foreign domination. He was respected for not betraying Princess Elizabeth under pressure. The bad parts of that, he was condemned as a traitor and insurgent during this time. His rebellion was poorly coordinated and easily crushed, leading to the harsh reprisals. Okay, so the summary is he was born in 1521 in Kent. His father was Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder. His key event was Wyatt's Rebellion, 1554. He was executed April 11th, 1554, at the age of 33. And he was known for an attempt to stop Mary I's marriage and protect the Protestant interests. His children, George Wyatt, writer and defender of the Boleyns, and his legacy was Protestant hero to some, failed rebel to others. Now, Sir Peter Carew, that was born in 1514, he passed in 1575, was a daring and ambitious English soldier and adventurer from Devon, best known for his involvement in Wyatt's Rebellion and later military campaigns in Ireland. Now, his life was marked by high political risk, shifting allegiances, and a relentless pursuit of power and land, particularly through claims to Irish titles. Okay. Now, he died in 1575 in Ross, Ireland. He was so notable for the involvement in Wyatt's Rebellion in 1554 and the military campaigns to Ireland and asserting Anglo-Norman claims over Irish lands. And his allegiance was initially Protestant rebels and then later served Queen Elizabeth I very loyally. His family background was, and I believe that these are ancestors too. I'm going to look, and if I do, I'll put how I'm related below in the slideshow with the other photos. His father was Sir William Carew of Mohuns, Ottery, Devon, and his mother was Margaret Edgecombe from a powerful West Country family. I do believe that these are also my ancestors. The Carews were a well-established gentry family with connections at court. Peter was a cousin to Sir Gawain Carew and connected to other influential Devon families like the Courtenays. His early life and education, he was educated both in England and Europe. He was known for being restless and ambitious. He traveled to France and Italy as a young man. He gained military and courtly experience. And as a skilled soldier and courtier, though he frequently clashed with authority. And the role he had in Wyatt's Rebellion was he is a very staunch Protestant and anti-Spanish figure. He opposed Queen Mary I's proposed marriage to Philip of Spain. He was one of the key co-conspirators with Thomas Wyatt the Younger and Henry Grey, Duke of Suffolk, and his role was to raise rebellion in the West Country, but he failed to gain support and fled abroad to avoid capture. Now, he was obtained and declared guilty of treason and absentia. So, And now the exile and return of that, and so many people don't even hear this, that he lived in exile in France and in the Low Countries until Mary I's death in 1558. And upon Elizabeth I's ascension, he returned to England and had his attainder reversed, regaining his status and lands. Hello! Ha ha! Woo! Yes, thank you very much. So his military and political career under Elizabeth I, he became a very loyal servant to Queen Elizabeth. In later life, he focused heavily on military service in Ireland, where he pursued the Carew is known as the Carew claim in Ireland. Okay, he claimed lands in Leinster based on a 12th century Norman grant to one of his ancestors. The claim was used as justification for military conquest, and then he led campaigns in Leinster and Munster during the Tudor conquest of Ireland. So the controversy and the impact over that was viewed by so many Irish lords as a foreign usurper, and his land claims caused by unrest and contributed to the Desmond rebellions, okay, which we'll get into that later, and wider tensions in Ireland. Now, through ambitions, his campaigns had limited long-term success, and he did leave a legacy of bitterness among the native Irish lords. I'm so sorry for that. So sorry. Now, his death he died in 1575 at Ross County, Waterford, during his second Desmond Rebellion. During the second Desmond Rebellion, not the first. He was buried in Waterford Island. So his death marked the end of his personal ambitions in Ireland, but his efforts laid groundwork for later English colonization. And the legacy for the good and bad, because I always like to compare. Good, he was loyal to Elizabeth I after exile. Bad, he betrayed Mary I in rebellion. Good, he was a skilled soldier and court leader, and he helped to enforce Tudor authority in Ireland. But the opportunistic side was bad. He was a land seeker, an opportunistic land seeker in Ireland, which is not good. And he stirred resistance and conflict with native Ireland chieftains. Okay, so later, he became a fascinating figure. He was very brave, controversial, driven by legacy and ambition. He lived at the intersection of Protestant rebellion, Tudor expansionism, and a feudal land claims. And though he was once branded a traitor, he died in service to the crown, leaving a very complex historical reputation, most definitely. So that's what I have on Peter Carew. Okay, now on that, I want to be able to break down the consequences of the wars at hand. Okay, I really want to break that down because we've got major families affected. We've got the Lancasterian Tudor York Union. Okay, we've got key players of the family. We've got a timeline overview. What were the War of the Roses? I mean, really, what were the War of the Roses? I'm going to go over that. Okay, I'm going to be going over that. So we've got. I want to go over the executions before I get into that. Okay, and the reason I want to do that is because I want to get into the executions before that, because like I said, I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice, not just to find who's naughty or nice. I'm not Santa, but to pass on down into my family history library. Okay. I want to pass it on to future generations, and I want the information to be right. I'm just going to be honest. All right. So, a list of, let's see, I wrote it. I literally wrote it all down. Okay. of I want to pass it on to future generations, and I want the information to be right. I'm just going to be honest. And now that this episode is over, I am going to call the Heritage Huntress, Heather. Let's see what she has to say about Wyatt's rebellion. Heather?
Thomas Wyatt the Younger led that rebellion against Queen Mary, my distant relative. Actually, he wanted to stop her marriage to Prince Philip of Spain. What sparked your interest in this?
Well, he's my ancestor, but I just wanted to call. I went over on the key plots of Thomas Wyatt and his rebellion, and I just wanted to know, I want you to do just a brief, quick run over within less than 60 seconds of everything that happened and all the people around it, so I know I'm making sure I hit it right.
I'll give you a brief rundown. Wyatt's rebellion was sparked by Mary's plans to marry Prince Philip of Spain. He led a force of 4,000 men from Kent to London, with the help of my ancestor, Sir Henry Percy's brother-in-law.
The help of your ancestor, Sir Percy. That's my ancestor. And which brother-in-law is this?
You're right. Percy is your ancestor. The brother-in-law I was referring to is Thomas Wyatt's ally, Sir Thomas Howard, who was married to your ancestral family,
Yes.
the Percys.
Oh, well, and Thomas Howard's my ancestor, too.
We have a lot of ancestral overlap.
Yeah.
I'm excited to... So, we've got Thomas Wyatt's rebellion, the Percys, and the Howards. I'm loving this family history deep dive. What's next?
Well, I went over Margaret Pole as well, and the Pole family, and next will be revealed. So everybody tune in next week for the Heritage Hunters podcast for episode 5 and find out who, what, where, why, and when.